Welcome to Seacoast Stories, a podcast about the people, businesses, and newsmakers that make the Seacoast an American hidden gem. I'm Troy Vargas, and on today's episode, my conversation with Will Myska, the head honcho at Ore Nell's, a Maine favorite that's been serving authentic Texas barbecue since 2018. Today, we discuss what Will learned from working at Seacoast staples like Massimo's, Vida Cantina, and Stages. Plus, the conversation with top Seacoast chef David Vargas that changed Will's life, the adorable story behind the Ore Nell's name, why New Englanders get chili totally wrong, and so much more. But before that, Will, a Texas native who spent 19 years just outside of Houston, begins today's episode with a story about the moment he fell in love with cooking.
It was my 13th birthday, and, what do you want to do for dinner? Do you want to go to Chili's? Do you want to go to Red Lobster, Olive Garden, And I was like, I want to fry my own oysters. So my mom took me to the store, and we got a bucket of oysters, the Tony seasoning, fry mix, and I made my own dinner for everybody, and everybody enjoyed it, Like, at least they told me they did, probably because it was my birthday. And that feeling there on my 13th birthday of that self-gratification of like, wow, like I made something, and I enjoyed it, but people also enjoyed it too. That's where the light switch just kind of went on for me.
Wow. Yeah. Not your traditional 13-year-old birthday story.
Yeah, I mean, frying oysters, mom got the pan hot with oil and I just breaded them and dropped them in there. But still though, it's doing that and me wanting to do that instead of going out to get the awesome blossom was cool. And I kind of planted a seed and a bug in me. And then ever since then I've been in restaurants and, did a culinary program in high school and yeah.
Okay. So that 13-year-old birthday, that was really the turning point where as people started asking you the next few years, hey, Will, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? Yeah. It was, I want to be in the food industry.
I want to be a Major League Baseball player, you know what I mean? Yeah. Or be in the NBA for sure, you know what I mean? But food was fun, and hanging out with your buddies when the parents aren't there and you guys are, doing bad stuff and like we're all hungry and, trying to whip something up for them, and people are like, this is great. That reciprocation of someone enjoys this that you did. I don't know. That's the bug right there that made me fall in love with food, obviously eating it, but the nourishment of it to others and myself, like that's what really kind of planted the seed for sure.
So where does your education in learning how to do this professionally really start?
So it starts with doing dishes at a barbecue restaurant, at 14 years old, being like, this is way over my head, I wasn't a kid that got an allowance, again, back to kind of middle class. So anything that you work for, I think the biggest thing was getting my first paycheck and being like, wow, I have $188. Like, this is crazy. Now I can be like my other friends who live in the neighborhood across the street who have the big houses and like their parents give them $20 a week just for existing. You know what I mean? I was like, now I can buy some Burger King or whatever, and the satisfaction of hard work to earn $1 motivated me. And it's all I kind of knew. You're 14 years old doing dishes, making $5.15 an hour and going to school. And I'd work a couple of days after school and on the weekends. And, something pulled me into the restaurant. I think it was also the camaraderie of, everybody talking to each other, joking around, the servers, the line cooks, everybody, I was the low man, as a dishwasher, they would mess with me but it was fun, it felt like a family, and I liked that, maybe coming from not two different families, but being a kid coming from divorce, I don't know, maybe something with the restaurant felt like a family, like a whole family, you know what I mean? So that could be a factor in it too, for sure. You know?
Growing up in Texas where barbecue reigned supreme and then working at that restaurant when you were 14. Yeah. Is that really where a love for barbecue and appreciation for it started?
I think so. I think also just being in Texas and just going to barbecue restaurants, and also my grandmother and grandfather, would throw smoked chickens on, on the weekends and, a rack of ribs here and there too. Not every weekend, but just family reunions. There's always a smoker out there. There was something, And I think it's whenever I started spending my summers with I had the cool uncle. He lived outside of Austin and I would spend my whole summers with him. And that's when I didn't smoke the brisket he did, but it was cool because we did it for a family reunion on Sunday. and we stayed up all night to smoke the brisket Saturday night. So the fact that you could, because we're talking a 10, 12-hour process, and the fact that I could stay up all night long at 14, 15 years old, you know what I mean? Maybe there was a Lone Star Light sitting over there that I could take a quick sip of, which I shouldn't have, I thought that was just so cool. Usually it's like, hey, you got to go to bed, you know what I mean? And it's like, no, you got to stay up because we got to make sure this thing comes out perfect. And again, you're talking to a teenager, but like, that's cool. You know what I mean? It made me feel grown as an adult. I don't know.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's, that was cool seeing that process. I took a culinary arts program in high school. It wasn't home ec. It was the first year they switched over to an actual culinary program.
In your actual high school?
In my high school, yeah. Foster High School. Yep. Home of C.D. Lamb. Football player for Cowboys. Yes. And, then that really made me like, I want to do food.
Is that common in Texas? That kind of program in a school?
It was the first year. This is 2004 now. So they always had home ec, right? Where
you learn sewing.
You take the fake baby home for a weekend and it cries or something like that, but it was the first year that they were like, we're going to actually do a culinary program. They still had home ec. Now you could still learn how to sew and things like that. I think those are great programs for schools, wood shop, kind of trades, right? But it was the first one that was a culinary program. And that was awesome. It's just solely on food and technique and stuff like that. It was really cool.
So you took that education working in the restaurant as a teenager, then this high school class, and then you decided to go pursue actual culinary school.
I didn't have much going on. I was a troublemaking kid. And,
really?
I was a little troublemaker. And my mom had moved back up to Dover, New Hampshire to take care of her parents and switch her career. She was a social worker and got a new job at the Horton Center on the White Mountains. And I was just there by myself. She didn't leave till we all graduated high school, out on our own. And she told me about this culinary program in Dover, New Hampshire. That's right down the street. And I came to visit. This was the summer of 2007 now. And I love New England. I always thought New England was just cold like it is right now, like all year round, And I think I came up in August and it was just beautiful. It was light out until 9 o'clock at night. People were walking everywhere. There was the beach. There was this. And I was like, yeah, I want to go to school up here. It was only an 18-month program. So my whole plan was to get my associate's degree and then move back down to Houston and start cooking more in the city of Houston because I'm on the outskirts, like 20 miles, southeast of Houston. And I just fell in love with this place, man. This is home.
And this was the same school, I believe, that past guest of the show, Evan Hennessy, also attended.
Yeah, yep. This McIntosh College. So, Yep, they had the Le Cordon Bleu program. Then it turned into the Atlantic Culinary Academy. So I was there from October. I was enrolled in October of 2007 until I did my internship with Evan Hennessy in January of 2009.
Right. You were, this was a word I had never heard until I met Evan. You were a stage for him at his restaurant Stages in Dover.
Well, no. So this was the Dunaway in 2009. He was the chef of the Dunaway, and that's where I met him. And I learned I probably learned more working for Chef Hennessy within 2 months than I did in 18 months at school, And I think that's how it is for a lot of people, I get that question all the time. Like, do you want to go to culinary school? Like, my kid wants to go. I'm like, have your kid find the best chef in the area, do dishes underneath them, want to learn, stay late, and really, be a sponge, you know what I mean? And Evan had so much patience, and grace. And taught me a lot. My whole thing was just don't mess up and don't let him down. Because when someone gives you an opportunity, last thing I want to do is never show up late, never, you know what I mean? Just be on time. Yes, chef. Yes, chef. And Evan's the man. He taught me so much. And then when he opened Stages in 2012, he approached me to be a chef de partie there.
Okay.
Along with his sous chef was John Flintosh, who owns Golden Harvest with his wife and also Carl's Meat Market. So I got to learn from two awesome dudes, man, which is really cool.
So what were some of the biggest lessons that you learned from Evan while studying under him in those 2 months?
The biggest lesson was attention to detail. His attention to detail is off the charts. It's like he loves sports like I do. Shout out to big brother Evan. It's like being a quarterback, right? You got to know 10 different things going on in 4-second play. You know what I mean? This man knew every variable that's going on a plate. Oh, wow, there could be a hiccup in service, could handle that too. It just was flawless. You know, a lot of people shut down in those situations. And, you know, when the tickets start pouring in and the kitchen gets hot, you know, and he just cool as a cucumber, man. He's so focused and attention to detail and technique. You know, his technique was ahead of his time and off the charts, and still is to this day.
Yeah. And so then you started working with him at Stages, and Stages opened in 2011. So you were pretty much there from the beginning.
Yeah. So the Dunaway got sold, and I worked at a country club, Abenaki in Rye. I met a lot of awesome chefs, but that was a seasonal place. So in January of 2011, I knocked on the back door of Ristorante Massimo's, and that's where I met Jethro.
You knocked on their back door, actually.
Well, I set up in it, but I had to go through the back door. But yes, and I was so nervous. I mean, this Massimo's has expanded to the upstairs now.
Right.
They didn't have the upstairs then. And it was, 6 days a week, and it was 4 people, So you talk about getting like, you're one of them now, you know what I mean? Like you're in there. And Jethro, another super focused, talented chef, he broke me down to build me back up, like coming in there. I worked for Evan. I worked at the country club where, I'm the man, I'm 21 years old. And it's like, nah, dude, like you got a lot to learn, but he did it like in a big brother way. I needed that little gut punch, so to say, you know what I mean? Reality. But still have a big brother that is going to hit you in the stomach and then still pick you back up and be like, all right, man, like we got a lot to do. And, and I was just with him last week. I talked to him all the time, and it's a beautiful, beautiful relationship we have,
So learning under him at Massimo's and seeing kind of the other parts of the industry that are perhaps less glamorous.
Yeah, I mean, sure. The first day I went in there, so we do family meals. So you make staff meal every day, But we open at 5, you make staff meal at 4 o'clock. And so the first day is like, hey, why don't you make staff meal? And so coming from a country club, we do all these banquets on site, things like that. So there's always leftover chicken breast or something. You can just grab that, take one of your 7 salad dressings, pour it on there, rebake it, throw a salad with it. Here you go. Massimo's all scratch kitchen. So I remember walking into that walk-in and being like, and just almost having a panic attack of what the hell am I going to do right now? There wasn't any pre-cooked off chicken breast. There wasn't anything that was sitting there, short order, cooking, ready to go. It was all from scratch, I can't even remember what I made, but Massimo's is the best guy in the world. I think he's like, oh, this is nice, but I could tell like whatever I made, it wasn't nice at all. But I mean, that's how you learn, man. Right. You know what I'm saying? So, that taught me a lot, like going in there and being like, I have a lot of fucking work to do. Yeah. You said I could cuss. And that was big for me in my development. I was there until Evan approached me a year later, but that whole year, man, 6 days a week, it taught me so much. And then I eventually, when paying for a wedding and having a kid on the way, I eventually went back part-time. Oh, wow. So, that's love and family right there that Massimo and Jethro showed me. You know what I mean? Like,
so I never worked in the restaurant industry. Someone like Evan taking you under his wing. Now, I mean, you're a young, hungry kid, 21, 22 at this time. He's aware that I could very well be coaching my future competition.
I don't know, man, we'd hang out at the house. We play basketball together. I don't look at it that way. And I don't look at it with people here. I mean, maybe I've never worked in New York or LA or even downtown Houston, like in a cutthroat kind of thing. I know that does exist, but I always think rising tides. And I always think the thing that was great about these guys I mentioned, I haven't got to Chef Vargas too, my other mentor, is that it's rising tides and they're all secure with themselves. So it's like, I'll show you everything I have, but I know I have it. So like, there's nothing to hide, so to say. There's no turning your back on a secret recipe, because they're very secure in their own skin. And then why not teach the next generation or the future, man, to grow? And I can only speak for myself. I think you do a disservice if you do that to the younger generation. I mean, a lot of my guys are 10 years younger than me, 15 years younger. And why would you not show them anything, If the barbecue place pops up in Portsmouth or, on the 4th side in Kittery and it's better, then, I'll be like, damn, well, I got to find something new. But at the same time, I'll be proud because, what I taught that man, that stuff right there. And it's kind of like that dad approach, like, that's my boy, what I mean? So that's how I look at it. I don't ever see it from that other side, but maybe some still do. I don't know. Rising tides, man. Let's all get this together. You know what I mean? So
yeah, you're working with Evan. You have the gusto to just knock on the back door to Massimo and start working there, which, I mean, I haven't been in the Seacoast that long, but it's my understanding that Massimo is like cream of the crop places to eat and places to work. And so then you do start working with Chef Vargas as well, who is the head honcho at La Vida Cantina.
Yeah. So again, going back to 2013, I'm paying for a wedding. So I'm working multiple jobs because, again, we're going back to that 11, 12 bucks an hour, and weddings, even though ours was relatively cheap, but we got to pay for it ourselves, you know? And so that's what you do when you're young and hungry. And so I got a part-time job at Vida Cantina, and then Chef Vargas took over and sat me down right away, and we talked. And I hit it off with this man right away. He's from California, Orange County, outside of LA. I'm from Houston, so we're kind of both outsiders to New England. And I don't know, man, his energy and patience is just, it's off the charts. And again, going back to what I've learned of just working hard, showing up on time, you know, and trying to work on technique, learn new things, a lot of butchery from Chef Vargas, like breaking down whole animals and things like that I've never got to work with before. Because you're intimidated at first, like a half pig comes in or a whole pig, and I don't want to mess that up. That's a lot of money, you know, and his patience and his teaching ability is so good because of the way he uses his words and his finesse. He is another one of my big brothers. He's more like my uncle, you know, because he still keeps me in line to this day. He is the cream of the crop for sure. I was his chef butcher guy that would come in at 7 a.m. and work till about noon. And then I would go either to Massimo's or to Stages or both. And Chef could have easily got rid of me. You know, I'm sure I took up some of his payroll, but he groomed me. He kept me in there. He knew I had a young child on the way at 26 years old, and I always appreciate him for that. And then it came up one day that he needed a chef de cuisine, you know, and he had sous chefs before, but chef de cuisine was, you know, you're talking to a kid, you know, and you want to be that executive chef, right? And you got the brigade system, executive chef, you got chef de cuisine, then the sous chef, then chef de partie. And I was like, man, he asked me to be the sous chef a few months before. And I was like, you know, the schedule's great right now. I got a little one and it works. And then he was talking about a chef de cuisine. And I remember we were prepping next to each other. We call it the hole. It's like the prep old walk-in freezer of Friendly's, because Vida used to be an old Friendly's building. Right. That's been hollowed out now, you know, and we have tables in there. And I just leaned over to him and I go, man, I didn't know you were handing out chef de cuisines. And he just stopped and he kind of looked at me. And the next day he offered me the chef de cuisine job. And I took it, you know, because it's opportunity. Sometimes, you know, you're scared to take opportunity, because I was very comfortable with my schedule. And yeah, it's good to get uncomfortable and to also not pass up an opportunity. Right. And so I dove into that with him, and then the rest is history now with Ore Nell's, man.
Now, La Vida Cantina is a different dining experience than the ones that you were serving up at Massimo's.
It is
Stages.
As far as, you know, like it's the short order cooking. But I mean, when you pull everything back, whatever restaurant you're at, you see everybody's technique, you see what everybody's ingredients are using and things like that. And that's on the same level. We're making our own tortillas, you know, nixtamalization, you know, boiling the corn with lime, you know what I mean? And then at this time, if you hear the chef, you had me on a hand grinder before he bought an automatic grinder once we left, you know, but that was part of the process. And to make your own tortilla, you could easily just buy a pack of tortillas, but you're making it your own. So he went all the way back to the core, and even what's on the tacos and all his nightly specials. I mean, he pulls from every local farm around here, you know, the freshest ingredients. So that was cool. That was something different, because a lot of, you know, everybody wants to use local, and you should, but local is expensive too. And local is hard, especially depending on what your menu may be, you know? But he found a way to do it every single time in every single dish on every single plate. And that was something I haven't seen before. That is his outreach to local farmers, the local community. I mean, Chef always has, still to this day, but always had a random dinner with this farm or dinner with that farm or 4-course with this, that. It's exhausting working for Chef Vargas because he never stops moving. Like, he's always on to the next thing. He built a busy restaurant so successful and could just sit there and be like, okay, you know, people are going to show up. We're going to make our money and all that. But he constantly just throws something else in there, you know, a mezcal dinner, and brings up the best, you know, Mexican chefs from all over the region, you know, like it's always going. I'm like, I don't know how he gets sleep at night. You know, I need like at least 6-7 hours. This guy's a 3-hour a night sleeper and just always going. But you want to surround yourself with those kind of people, because that's what makes you better and pushes you. Even when I don't want to be pushed at times, that's cool. That's leadership. That's Chef Vargas right there. I appreciate from that, because he made me so much better about like, yeah, you know how to do this and that, but what else can you do? What else? What's next? What's next? Keep moving, keep going, you know?
And I understand he pushed you eventually to have a conversation one day, sat you down after being a few years into the industry, after working for these titans of the Seacoast restaurant game, and he eventually sat you down and just asked, what do you want to do, right?
He did, yeah. So we would play around with a lot of barbecue there, because I mean, even LA, a lot of barbecue, barbacoa, things like that, and do a lot of more smoking. We made our own pastrami. We'd start playing around a little more, but I got to the point of my peak there, It's like, you can still be my chef de cuisine here, but like, what do you want? Like, what's for you? At this time, I'm 28, 29 years old, and I'm like, I don't know. I want to be an executive chef. You know what I mean?
You hadn't really thought about it before then.
I haven't, because when you're in it, sometimes you're in it. You know what I mean? Like, again, I think it's just working a lot, grinding, a young family. There's not a lot of time to sit back and, I don't know. My time sitting back was decompressing from it all, from work, from things like that. And just always kind of trusting the process of knowing that keep working hard, keep doing good, and your opportunity will come. I didn't know it would come so soon. But that chef for he saw something in me, and he knew my character and whatnot. And he talked about barbecue. So then we started playing around barbecue for months and months and months, and found this location. And, it wasn't a push me out. It was a push me up, so to say, what's next for you, man? I mean, what I will say with that too is, you see a lot of guys that work so well for you and do so much for you. It's so easy to just keep them there because it makes your life easier. So for somebody to want to do something for you in that regard shows a lot of their character, their heart. You see it all the time, not just in restaurants, just in business. This person, Michelle does all this for me. There's no way I want her to move on, right. Because now it's all handled for me and my job's easier. My life's good.
Train someone
I'm on
new.
vacation. I can do whatever I want and whatnot. But for him to push me as Michelle, like, you need to do something else, man. Like that's really cool.
Do you think you would have done something else had he not pushed you in that way?
I was pretty comfortable there. Eventually, maybe, but I loved it, man. Back to the family aspect of restaurants, Vida was such a family. It still is to this day. And if he had not pushed me, I don't know. Sometimes I get complacent a little bit, Mm-hmm. So it's good to surround yourself with people that do nudge you a little bit like that. Chefs definitely want to do it.
Yeah. So take me back into, 2016, 17 Seacoast time. What was the barbecue scene like around here at that point?
So I mean, the one that everybody always talks about is definitely Goody Cole's, which they have awesome brisket. They have the old smoker outside.
Where's that?
That's in Brentwood. Okay. So not really here on the Seacoast. There was one Moe's barbecue. It was a Moe's where on State Street that everybody took. I think it was AB's barbecue. That was here in the early 2000s, and it was right on State Street where Dos Migos was, by the Red Door. And that one people always talk about and rave about, but there's really nothing here on the Seacoast at the time. Muddy River had theirs, but that got turned into the Thirsty Moose, which they do awesome. I think they kept the smoker in there, and I think Muddy River actually just opened in Newfields, New Hampshire, like a couple months ago, which is really cool. But as far as that, I want to say there wasn't too many around the Seacoast, man.
So was part of the motivation for you and Chef Vargas experimenting with barbecue, was it, listen, there's so much food around here. Food is the thing to do on the Seacoast, but this actually seems to be an opening, and you being the Texas guy, this makes a lot of sense.
So, like I always tell people, like I'm classically French trained first, you know what I mean? Which I think it makes it better at barbecue because you know a lot of techniques, and then you go into barbecue instead of just being barbecue. And so I think that helped me out a lot. But yeah, I mean, because, my stories are back to smoking dry brisket at night in Copeland, Texas when I was 15 and growing up around it and having the sense and the pride of it. And seeing the wave come up of barbecue, and I'm playing around with it at Vida. And so we went for it, man.
So here we are at Ore Nell's, the OG location. There are now two. Take me into the founding of this specific place. How did you find this location? How did you come up with the name? Tell me all the details.
Yeah, so I got to give the big shout out to Mr. Jay McSherry, who's we're in the McSherry restaurant group. So he's the one that, green lights everything. And I didn't have not that I didn't have a good rapport. I didn't have much rapport with him at all. And he still trusted me through chef's word of mouth and stuff like that. Now I've got to know Jay very well. So it was, let's do a barbecue place, let's expand his, Jay Group Foundation too. And this location was the Blind Pig, and it was up for sale. So we came down here, the three of us, one day, and we talked business about what we're going to do and, how are we going to make money in the wintertime. And I was telling about Thanksgiving, like we sell smoked turkeys. So now we do our Thanksgiving packages that are sell out within a month. every November. I haven't had a Thanksgiving since 2017, but I have Black Friday off every year, folks. Okay. So I enjoy it then. So we came here, we walked into this building, and if you haven't been here before, it's wood everywhere. There's a horseshoe shaped bar that has aluminum siding on it, and we inherited that. So when we walked in, it was almost like an epiphany of like, whoa, this is a barbecue spot. You know what I mean? Like the building was already here. With this identity, it just didn't have barbecue inside of it yet. And that was really cool. We were turnkey within 45 days and opened up on March 22nd, 2018.
And also the location itself. You cannot beat this location.
You can't beat it. And the good thing too is we missed that wave. I remember before 2018, I think there was a 5-year stretch where the Memorial Bridge was down.
Really?
So yeah, the bridge was down because they renovated it. They rebuilt it all. So that's tough with the flow of traffic, Wow. So we're basically in Portsmouth without being in Portsmouth, and right here. And in the summertime with the picnic tables and the view of the water and whatnot, it's really nice. So it's, we were out of the gate busy, which is really cool. So it's fun, man. We gave this place, it already had the identity. We just matched the name. Speaking of the name Ore Nell's, my grandmother, we went through a company called Ham in Portsmouth. They do an awesome job. And there was 3 or 4 different name choices. There was Flat and Point, which is your 2 sides to a brisket. There was Sugarland Barbecue, which was Ore Nell lived in Sugarland, Texas, right outside from my hometown. Another one, then it was Ore Nell's. And me being too bashful and modest, we all chose what name we wanted. And I didn't pick Ore Nell's because I was like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I'm given an opportunity, name it after my grandma. You know what I mean? And then everybody in the room was like, no, dude, there's only one clear choice. It's got to be Ore Nell's, Oh,
wow.
And that made me feel really good, But I told them too, I said, thanks that there wasn't enough pressure. Thanks for adding my grandma's name on it too,
Why was naming it after your grandmother even an option? Was it you were really close with her and wanted to honor her?
Very close with her. Yeah, okay. For sure. Definitely. And it's not that I didn't want it. I didn't want to be the one that made the decision.
How did she feel about that?
So blown away. At this time, Ore Nell's in an assisted living facility. She just passed away this past October at 97. So, wow. Here she was 90 and my sister would show her on Facebook because she didn't know how to use Facebook, obviously, and that's okay. But she would wear the hats, the shirts, have the stickers on her walker that said Ore Nell's on them, and she was she was a hot shit, in the assisted living facility, swagging it up. I got a restaurant named after me, and that made me feel just.
But she never made it here.
She couldn't. No, she's in her health. It was too much to travel, but she saw all the photos and got all the swag and stuff. And every time I'd go down, at least twice a year, I'd, visit with her and bring her something else and tell her what we're up to and this and that. And she would just beam with light and just pride, which, cool. I was a punk little kid too. So it kind of came back full circle of to make her feel good and proud of me, what I mean? In her later days and as I'm getting older. So yeah, man, it's, that's probably the coolest thing ever is getting to honor her that way.
Yeah, I'm sure she's very proud.
It motivates us to keep grinding. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
keep our head to the grindstone and keep trying to expand and making people happy. I think that's the best thing. It sounds so corny, making people happy,
no, but
keeping them fed, good experience. Good drinks, food, and I don't know, just a good atmosphere, man.
Coming up, Will's mouth-watering description of how he prepares a popular dish, plus that time he met the legendary Mike Tyson, and also his biggest regret from 7 years at Ore Nell's. All of that in a moment, but first, if you're enjoying this episode, it'd mean the world to our team if you could do us one quick favor. Tell one person in your life about Seacoast stories. Shoot a text to a friend, a Slack message to a coworker, or better yet, to the next person you grab a coffee with. Supporting local isn't just buying goods from your favorite Seacoast stores. It's also spreading the word about businesses, which spread the word about other businesses, like we're doing here. As you just heard, rising tides lift all boats. Thank you so much in advance for doing that and for listening local. Now back to today's story. back to the early days of Ore Nell. So, I mean, this is a huge transformation for you. You said you've been known to be a little bit complacent at times. So you were very comfortable in your past life. You knew what you were doing. You knew for the most part what every day looked like. And you knew that other people were making the big decisions.
Right.
Now at Ore Nell's, you are the one making the big decisions along with the other members of the J group. And you are now curating the restaurant experience for people. How did you deal with that very quick transition?
So going back to Chef Vargas, I had a good mentor in my corner / business partner. You know what I mean? That was always in my ear and always there with me. So mentorship, having someone to talk to call at all hours of the night, to lean on is very huge, very important, you know, but also, complacent, just life periods, you know, like one thing that I do pride myself on and that I do tell others is I throw things at the wall and see what sticks. And I'm very creative. I don't mean that necessarily the food sense, but like, what are our promos? What can we do to get people in here? What are our giveaways? What are that, you know? And an example was we did when we first opened Western Wear Wednesday, which wear your best Western attire and get a gift card, you know? And it was such a bust, you know? And we had all these posters made. We'd give the gift card to somebody that just came in their normal clothes. We're like, you are the Western person of the day. And they're like, what? Like, I'm wearing jeans and a cowboy hat.
Why didn't that work? I feel like that's a good idea.
Because I think we were too new to. And this, again, in the summertime kind of takes care of itself with our location, our food, our catering. You know, this is started the first fall of 2018. And, you know, after the first couple months, you know, we just kind of pulled the plug on it. And that's okay. You know what I mean? And then try again. So now we started brunch. I came up with the public service industry nights on Tuesdays, which, you know, we still honor people who are in the food industry, but we're like, everybody has a food industry. I was like, why not do public service for teachers, firemen, police officers, you know, government, state job, something like that, you know, and that's
shipyard people.
Shipyard. Yeah, exactly. And that's been a big hit for us, you know, and now we do Wing Wednesday, 50-cent wings on Wednesdays. And in this past year, I started community nights. So for nonprofits, schools and stuff, 20% of our in-house sales go back to you. And I call that one the win-win-win. And how I explained it to the partners and everybody else was that, you know, we're giving back is the first win, right? We're getting people in here that may not have been here before, you know, as a second win. And the third win, which I really believe in, is maybe someone came here before, but had a bad experience and said, curse Ore Nell, so I'm never coming back in there. But now the community night, maybe your daughter's volleyball team. So you're like, all right, I'll go in there and because it's supporting, you know, Sarah, whoever, you know what I mean? And then they might have a good experience the second time they came back in when they said they would never come back in here again. And that's my third win, you know? So that's how I sold it anyways, Troy, you know? So it passed.
Yeah.
And it's been really awesome, man. You know what I'm saying? So the giving back's the first thing, you know? So we're really big about that, especially with our Thanksgiving packages, work we gather, you know, just think that it's just what you do, man. It's food, you know what I mean? So it's important.
Yeah. So you made the decision to expand in 2023 to Biddeford. Why did you want to do that?
Because we were here for, at this point it's 5 years, and we had a really awesome 5 years, even through COVID. We didn't close, and we did so much takeout that our takeout game is still prevalent to this day, you know? And it was just time for, it's time for me to have another opportunity too. We go back to that plateau thing, you know, can I expand myself as well? And Biddeford's an up and coming community. And so we opened in August of 2023. Obviously don't want to open another Ore Nell's too close to where we are here. And with us still a mom and pop restaurant, so to say, not too far, you know what I mean, as well. So Biddeford felt like south of Portland, kind of a nice landing spot there in an up and coming kind of community.
Yeah. When I talked to Mackenzie Logan, who owns Flamingo's Coffee Bar, OG location, Hampton, she opened a second one in Exeter in 2023. She said she did so because the advice that she received from other people in the business was that having one rocking spot is great, but if you really want to make an actual living, you need to have multiple locations. There you go. So was that a part of it as well?
A huge part of it, of course. Yeah. So I got more ownership in this one in Biddeford, and more of an opportunity, you know, so that's, you know, I got 3 kids, Troy, man.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't know how you do it.
So, I don't know either. But definitely an opportunity, a bigger one for myself, which my 2 partners, Jay McSherry and David Vargas, and Kyle Chauncey's a partner too in Biddeford.
Yeah.
They guided me with that one and gave me more ownership, which is really generous of them. And so trying to make it work, you know, and grinding.
What is your favorite thing on the menu?
If I didn't say the brisket, I would be in trouble. But really, Frito pie. I eat a lot of Frito pie. Actually.
Frito pie?
Frito pie.
What is that?
That's our ground brisket from
Okay.
all of our trimmings that we do every night. Grind it up in a sausage grinder, smoke it off with some, cumin, paprika, chili powder, and saute it with pinto beans. Toss Fritos in there, throw it in a bowl, and then sour cream, pickled red onion, cilantro. So
oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it's it starts the day off, a little. Fills me up, but I'm good to go until nighttime, man. I'm the 2 meal a day guy,
What time of day are you having Frito pie?
Probably like around 11 or noon,
Okay.
So why not? Barbecue is built for the morning anyways, which is really cool.
True.
People don't realize that, barbecue is, even the old school places in Texas are, they open at 7 a.m. and they close and they sell out around 2:30. But it was for field workers, people working, having substance in your body and stuff like that. It's awesome, man. I can go into Texas barbecue all day, man.
Okay,
Don't get me started on chili.
Well,
either,
that's
man.
exactly what I want to do. I want to get into now. You took me around to the smoke room, which personally for me was so cool because I don't watch a lot of TV, but when I do, I love watching diners, drive-ins, and dives. And anytime Guy Fieri goes to a barbecue restaurant, I just get so much joy and so much mouth-watering from watching them open the smoker, them telling me that it's been sitting there for 16 hours and it was brined in this, blah, blah, blah. And then the smoke ring happens and it just looks amazing. And so I never really actually seen a smoke rack like that in person until you just showed me, and it made my little heart very happy, and my senses were tingling. So I'm sure each meat is different, but let's go with the brisket. What is the preparation process like?
So the brisket preparation is that we trim after service at night. So I trim all the fat, a 1/4 inch off of it, and then we rub it down at night. So it sits for like 6 hours or so until someone comes in the morning.
Rub it down with what?
We rub it down with salt, pepper. I do a little bit of brown sugar in there too. I'm just going to tell the Texans that, but it gives you a nice caramelization on the bark for you. So briskets, man, it's all about the trim. That's what I say. Trim for the win, because what you do is you buy this expensive piece of meat. It's actually relatively cheap, but it's a big, you're paying for.
And where do you get it from?
So I have a bunch of sources. Prima out of Boston. Favorite Foods has IBP product. So does Dennis, Shaheen. So we have multiple purveyors for sure.
Okay.
I keep multiple purveyors to keep them, not to keep them honest, but to keep the price honest of
Smart.
Where it's coming with as a businessman, But people don't want to trim too much fat, the home smokers, because they're like, well, I just paid this for it. Because we're throwing away about 1.5 pounds of fat a night of brisket. But if you want a good brisket, you need a 1/4 inch thick of fat on it. And I think people are hesitant to just get rid of that, And so trim, rub, let it sit, and then whether it's myself or Chef Tim or Zach Landry or AM Smoker comes in the morning, starts to smoker up around 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and you just throw it right in there, let it go naked for about 3 hours before we.
How hot?
Right now we have it around 266 to like 274. So it fluctuates with the wood. Is it dry wood? Is it wet wood? So it stays within that realm. And after about 3-4 hours, we wrap it in peach paper, which is unprocessed paper. So it has a little waxy component to it. And that way we establish our bark, which is your crust. And the look is sexy. You're like, that's the one I want to eat right there. Mm-hmm. But you still need 6 more hours on that thing. So
wow.
This way, wrapping in peach paper protects that crust, but lets you finish it until it's tender. And so, another 6 hours wrapped in peach paper. And then we don't temp. We just go by the wiggle effects. I always say like an undercase N. You want to grab it by both sides in the middle.
Okay.
And kind of give it like a little jiggle. And if it kind of just flops down a little bit, you're good. If it springs back up, then it's too tight, needs to go longer. But there's no time with it. I mean, some can take 10 hours, some can take 12, some can take 9. It's just all about feeling. So that's what we train our staff to do, is do the touch, wiggle, jiggle test.
Okay.
And I have to trademark the jiggle test right there.
So at what time of day does your brisket pass the jiggle test?
Usually like around 2 o'clock, 2 to 3.
And during the week, you guys open at 4.
Yep. So let it sit for an hour. Yep. And if we're open at 11, we'll start them at night, have someone intercept them in the morning to wrap them and finish them like at 3 a.m. So we have a whole kind of round the clock.
3 a.m.?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Landry just comes in early just to do the smoke, and then he gets to leave at, noon. Yeah. So it's just, it's a 9-hour shift, but it's Some people like, it's like bakers. Some bakers like to work at, 12 o'clock at night till 8 in the morning.
Yeah.
It's just it's finding the right people though, for sure.
Yeah.
You can't do it without them and the knowledge of the touch, feel kind of process. So
couldn't be me. So
yeah, me neither, I guess.
So is the brisket the most popular
It
item?
is. I think Texas is the land of cattle, so it's beef brisket. But to me, it is. To a lot of people that really love barbecue, it is. But ribs are the ones that ribs are the ones we sell out of the most. And it's a St. Louis cut. It's not from St. Louis, Missouri. It's just a cut.
What does that mean?
It's just taking off the bottom. They call it the brisket bone and the cartilage. So instead of having like the long spare ribs, you take off a little bit of that bottom bone right there. So they're more petite, not as fatty as baby backs, but just a petite rack of ribs.
Gotcha.
So yeah, cleaner look to them.
Yeah.
Cleaner style. So.
Okay, what else about Texas style barbecue are you really passionate about?
Chili.
Why?
Chili, because there ain't no beans about it. You can't put beans in Texas chili. And so I tell people this gets...
What do you mean you can't put beans in
You're
Texas
not.
chili?
They will kick you out of Texas in 2.5 seconds if you put a single bean in chili in Texas.
Isn't that what chili is?
Well, that's what chili is up here, And don't get me wrong, like I love red kidney beans in my chili, right, at home. But so my grandma would make it, and we'd call it taco soup. That it had the meat in there, the corn, tomatoes, chili that we know here. But it's a whole thing you can look up, man. People are so passionate about chili in Texas, and the reason behind it was the cattle drive started in San Antonio. So it was just water. It was cubed up meat, and then it was any kind of red dried pepper, like guajillo peppers, pasillas, because dried peppers have the antioxidants inside of them. So you boil it all together. You obviously need that nourishment. Water and meat isn't enough for you because you're on a 3-4 week journey going up through Oklahoma, Kansas. That's where chili started, was in San Antonio. And you got whatever it is, 8 to 12 to 13 people on a cattle drive. We're going to have salmon tomorrow night. We're going to have this. Like that's what you're living off of right there. So the antioxidants is huge. So we always put dried peppers in our chili. But going back to this one pot of chili, as you're going forward and going through Oklahoma, your pot is getting lower and lower because you're eating lunch, dinner, and all that. So that's where they would take beans. That's where they would take corn. That's where they would take tomatoes and throw it in there. So now you expand your pot back up. You're eating out of this one pot, basically the whole drive to and from. But how it started in Texas was just meat, dried peppers, and just whatever. Maybe they had a stock, but I'm going to say water. You know what I mean? So now the Texans rootin' tootin', our own country, they say, right? So they're just so stubborn with that Texas pride that if you go to a place and they have beans in the chili, man, it's not chili, man.
Wow.
And so I love that story, and I love living off that. So when we have our brisket chili here all the time, there's never a bean in it.
Wow. I'm going to be on the lookout for that.
But don't get me wrong, though. I like beans in mine, but I just can't. You have to be true. That's what we're trying to do here, down to the oak wood that we use in our smoker, down to sauce on side, pickles and onions on every tray, white bread on the side. Like, it's an identity that you have to be true to. I feel like, if you're going to call yourself this, you need to stick to that to the T and be true to it. And we have a special menu where we can play around with anything and have fun, be more creative, and cross things over. But on that traditional menu, got to stick to it, man.
Do you get Texans in here?
Yeah, for
and
sure.
What's their reaction to what you're doing here?
The ones that give me their approval are the ones that tell me they give me their approval. The other ones probably don't talk to me. I don't know, but no, they respect it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And you can look at the reviews, and I'm not a big review guy at all, but it's best Texas I've had brisket, since I've been in Austin, or things like that. It makes you feel good. It makes you feel like you're doing the right thing, or you're on the right path to, we can always keep growing, evolving, learning, even if it comes down to a brisket, ribs, just our technique can always get better. But it's good. It's satisfaction, man. Like, it makes you feel like, with all the stress a restaurant can have on you, like those little tidbits there, like, it makes you feel good, man. And a lot of Texans understand about the chili. I'm telling you, no beans, man.
Yeah.
No beans about
it. In the name of evolving, you're currently making just some changes to the look and feel of the place.
Yeah.
And then with the community nights that you've been offering, which are really great. And then you guys also do a lot of in the name of weddings and catering and whatnot. Tell me more about that. What do you guys do?
Yeah, tons of catering. And shout out to Chef Evan Hennessy. When he first opened Stages, he had a company called Flavor Concepts. And we did so many high-end caterings all over. A lot of them are in the borough, Moulton Borough, Wolfboro, a lot of the Hampton Falls, and even at Vida, a lot of catering too. So I learned a lot about that, because not that something always goes wrong, but there's always curveballs.
Of course.
There's always curveballs. And there's one thing that you can never say While catering is, oh, sorry, I don't have this, or oh, sorry, I can't do that. You always say yes, yes, yes. Every time, right? Because it's
Even if you don't have the thing.
You go figure it out. Hey, there's a Hannaford's right down the road, 0.2 miles, take the U-Haul, go grab, like you just smile. Yep, you got it. And you always deliver. That's just what it is, and I learned a lot of that. Not that there was any mistakes, but just there could be miscommunication. It's just so many variables go into like a wedding, So we started it here and we've grown. I think we did about 13 weddings last summer here. Not on site, but we off-site cater.
And you'll go anywhere, right?
Anywhere. Yep. We always say we'll go anywhere. There is a traveling fee, ladies and gentlemen. But so the closer the cheaper it is, but we'll go wherever. We have a really good system, setting up our own tables. We have our own Cambros. We have our own chafing dishes that have nice wooden boxes. I mean, we don't. And one thing that people like about our weddings, and I think it's one of the reasons we grow. One thing I say to them is we have our list of hors d'oeuvres and stuff, but I'm like, whatever you want, we can make happen. Like we did a wedding for people out of Pittsburgh a couple years back, and they wanted pierogies. So we made them pierogies. That's not on our catering menu, but you know what I mean? It's your day. Like we're talented chefs that we can make something happen for you, and weddings are big money for us too. Yeah. So you say yes all the time, but we don't slice like our meats ahead of time and transport them. We bring our smoker on site and we slice to order. And I think that's huge. Once you slice a brisket that's fully cooked, it starts oxidizing immediately. It gets that more gray color, it starts drying up. So we slice that. We always have a guy on a back line table that's slicing and transporting trays up to the front to replenish the buffet line, things like that. So same with the ribs and everything. So I think that's huge. We don't transport people with the sides, mac and cheese. We bring our own little, I call it a lobster pot with the propane tank, and we make it right there and transport it over because you want it for, it's someone's big day, man. You know what I mean? It's whether it's not a wedding at all, we're off site and we got to showcase who Ore Nell's is and make everybody happy, and we bring a lot of leftovers. So order Ore Nell's catering. Okay. It's nice. It's fun.
I will keep this in mind for not only for my own events, but I also know a lot of other people who just throw events in the Seacoast area as well. So here we are in February 2025. Ore Nell's has been open for 7 years, second location in 2023. As you sit here today, what are you most proud of?
Oh, man. I'm proud of the longevity of this place for 7 years and all the people that I've got the pleasure to work with, that I still keep in contact with to this day, whether they're still here or not, the relationships I made. That's what I'm proud of. I'm proud. I always wanted to be an executive chef so I could hire my own staff and have my people in that I've worked here with or there with, and I got to do that, and that dream came true. Again, a revolving door. A lot of them, have moved on to bigger and better, but I'm proud of the people I've worked with and the people that have moved on, seeing what they're doing now to bigger and better things, and not saying I had a part in that, but just knowing I got to rub elbows with them within these four walls. I think that's huge. I'm proud of expanding to a second location. It's not easy at all, but it shows that you got to be doing something okay in the first location to get to number two. The hard work. I'm proud of my family for their patience. Proud of, my mentors, my business partners. Yeah, man, it feels good to still be here and to keep making people happy and put out some okay food. You know what I mean? So,
well, it's more than okay. And it's pretty amazing to your point about the longevity. This is a hard area to make it in.
For sure.
Rent is expensive. And it's difficult to make that rent. So it is a testament to what you're doing here. Now, on the subject of family, we haven't really dug into your personal life too much. Yeah. I mean, it's my understanding this is an industry that consumes all of you.
Yeah.
3 kids, a wife, you're turning 37 soon.
Yeah.
How have you managed to balance owning this place, multiple locations, and being as hands-on as you are and trying to be a good father and husband?
I don't know if this is comedy hour on this thing, but an ex-wife, that's for sure. I think I put everything into here, and I was here a lot, and I kind of pushed a lot of my family away of trying to be successful. Maybe that's an insecurity of mine. So I've had a failed relationship, but still cordial, and my kids have grown up in this restaurant. Before they were in school, they were here with me every day or hanging out, coloring in the booth or helping me. My son has his little Spider-Man apron back there. It helps me wrap ribs at times. So it's so I put them to work, and it's just, and we'll come here and have a bite to eat sometimes too. And all they know is Ore Nell's, and Dad is a part of Ore Nell's, and it's what I have that I'm proud of. And you just make it work, I don't really know how to explain it, but it's what it is, So maybe I could have been a little more hands off in the beginning, but I don't know if we would have got to where we are now. So it's a lot of different sacrifices that, there are some regrets, some not, but life is funny like that. It's a beautiful thing. So you keep going onward with it. So yeah, but 3 kids, man, it's the coolest thing in the world. So yeah, it's a juggling act, but it is awesome.
What do you regret?
Oh, geez, man. Maybe not being more present in my home life in the earlier years of Ore Nell's Kittery. Maybe being too engulfed in the business, maybe my ego as well, and just wanting to make it, thinking that this is my only chance. But I think that also that mentality is what pushes me and made us to still be here. You know what I mean? Because it's all I know. But there's more to life than just the restaurant. You know what I mean? So being young and 30, 31, 32 at the time, and just thinking this is my only shot. It's you kind of, nothing's going to get in my way. You know what I mean? So my family took a big sacrifice on that. So that would be a big regret of mine.
You're also big into sports. You've made a couple sports references, and I see that your profile picture on Instagram is a photo with Mike Tyson.
Yes, it is Iron Mike, man.
So I work in combat sports.
Okay.
I work on podcasts about the UFC, so I'm very familiar with combat. What was it like meeting Mike Tyson?
I was nervous, man. So we do a lot here with East Coast Cannabis and Elliott.
Yeah.
We've done so much stuff. They gave me and Chef Tim tickets to the meet and greet this summer with Mike Tyson. And he was sitting by himself with like 5 bodyguards around him. And they were like rushing me to get in there. And I just remember the lady, maybe his PR lady or whatnot, asking like, you want a picture? Give me your phone. And I looked at her and I was like, is Mike okay with me getting a picture with them? Because it's Iron Mike, man. I don't know. Like, is he okay with this? Like, I don't want to upset him. And I get nervous, man. So I was just rattling and like, hey, Mike, like big fan of yours at the Mike Tyson Cares Foundation that you do. I didn't want to hit him with the, man, I remember back in.
Oh, wow, that's a deep
I remember back in 95, yeah. And so I'm rambling, being very polite. And he's like, hey, what's your name? And I was like, Will. And he goes, sit down, man. I was like, okay. And then, the whole time it was at the Wilder and they had like hors d'oeuvres and stuff. And Mike Tyson had a bowl of peanuts, man. He was just snacking on peanuts, chilling. But he was so laid back and so cool. He's, hey, sit down, dude. He's like, so where do you work at? What do you do? And I told him about myself. And it was probably 2 minutes, but it felt like 5 seconds. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's one of those like blurred things, but very gracious. And then I did the horrible like, hey, I know you're busy and you're, but I know he comes to town every now and then because he goes to the East Coast place like once a year or maybe twice a year because they sell his merchandise over there and stuff. So I know he's been there a few times. And I was like, well, next time you're in town, man, I know you probably get barbecue everywhere, but try this. And I gave him my card, and but when he left and put it in his pocket. He didn't leave it on the table. It wasn't like, So I was like, "That's cool, man." I haven't seen Mike, but
Can you imagine Mike Tyson walking through these doors?
Yeah, I mean, that'd be awesome. But I can also imagine Mike just like flicking that card on the floor and like just leaving it somewhere, being like, "Okay, dude," Yeah. So, but I was very polite, and he was incredibly calm and cool, man. So it was probably the biggest celebrity I've met. I don't know.
Yeah. So that's pretty big.
Yeah.
What other sports are you into?
The trifecta: basketball, baseball, football, for sure.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Which Texas team do you ride or die for most?
Oh, well, it's Houston Astros. Everybody up here says we bang on trash cans and all that, But even though the Red Sox just signed my guy, Alex Bregman. So, but Astros, day one, since going to the Astrodome, my grandparents as a little kid. Houston Rockets, favorite sports basketball. And then I don't know, the Dallas Cowboys, so that's a whole other story there, Are you a fan of the Pats?
No. I kind of fell out of sports because I worked at ESPN.
Did you really?
Yeah. So I was there for a few years.
No way, man.
It was just so all consuming sports. I was surrounded by like 80 sporting events at all times on various screens. And when I got home, I did not want to watch sports.
Dude, did you live in Bristol or were you close by? Did you really?
Bristol, yeah.
No way, man.
So I had no interest in watching any sports.
Did you get to rub elbows like with all the...
I rubbed elbows with a lot of people. Yeah.
Who was your favorite commentator?
Well, it's not only commentators that we had, but also celebrities and actors would come through.
Lil Wayne would come in on First Take or whatever.
Lil Wayne would come in. I remember I was setting up an interview with Nick Saban. That was pretty wild. I was like, I'm a 21-year-old kid and I'm miking up Nick Saban right now.
No way. This is 5'6" of him.
Yeah, this is pretty wild. Commentator wise though, I really wasn't starstruck until I met Paul Pierce, I would say.
Okay, yeah.
But I don't know. He was just, you remember your childhood and so, wow, this is like a star player from my childhood. This is wild. And then, you meet some of your heroes as well.
Yeah, definitely.
It was a lot of fun working there.
Who's the nicest guy you met at ESPN?
Oh gosh,
that people would know, not like behind the scenes producer, but like
while I think of that, I'll stall. So do you know the show Mike and Mike? Like
yeah, of course, Mike Greenberg and Mike. Yeah.
So I grew up watching that show. Yep. I loved that show. I would listen to it on my way to school with my mom in the car. One of my first weekends there. Do you know about the Big E in Springfield, Mass? It's this huge festival, huge food festival. It's crazy. You definitely should go at some point. And so that was the thing to do in Connecticut and Mass in fall. And after his show one day, I saw Mike Golick in the break room and I said, "Hey, Mike, I'm Troy. Nice to meet you." And then he just kind of rolled his eyes, looked at me. "Oh, nice to meet you, kid." "Oh, well, what'd you get up to this weekend?" I said, "I went to the Big E and stuffed my fucking face, and then I took a fat nap." I was like,
"That's what you said." Yeah.
I was like, "All right,
go
welcome to show business."
Yeah. That's pretty cool. At least he gave you the answer, man.
Yeah. I'll tell you this. Stephen A. Smith.
Yep.
I got suspended from work because I slept in his office.
No way.
Yeah. Huh? Yeah. He flagged me down and saw to it that I got suspended.
He just took a little nap. Though,
right? Yeah. Just took a little nap overnight.
Jeez, Stephen A. That's awesome. That's cool to know about you, Troy.
Yeah.
You're at ESPN, man.
Yep. So was at ESPN. Now I'm at Spotify. Now we're here.
Yeah. All right.
How about that? Enough about me. Back to you, and then we'll get you out of here. So we have one final question.
Oh,
we ask the same final question.
Okay.
At the end of every episode, every week.
Yes, sir.
And I'll ask it to you, Will. Knowing what you know now in hindsight about how everything has turned out for you.
Okay.
What advice would you give to your 22-year-old self?
Oh, man. Wow. Yes, it's to everybody, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I would say, keep grinding. Don't lose sight of your work ethic and what you do, but take more time to take a step back and smell the roses, and don't take things too seriously, because you miss a lot of moments and you'll regret a lot of those things. What I would say.
That's good advice. Thank you so much for everything you do, Will, here at Ore Nell's, for the community. And I can't wait to see what is to come in the next 10 years, because you just re-signed a lease here.
We're re-signing in March. Yeah, we have 4 left on this one and 10 more. So we'll be here for 14 years, So God willing, I'll be here too with it. So
can't wait to be here. Thank you, Will.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, Troy, man.
That's Will Myska, the head chef at Ore Nell's Barbecue in Kittery and Biddeford, Maine. To check out their delicious menus or to book their catering for your next event, just visit ornellsbbq.com, the link to which is in today's show notes. I'm out of town this week on a work trip, so unfortunately, you won't catch me at Ore Nell's, or Throwback Brewery, or Stella's Cafe. But I will be back next week, and I cannot wait to see you then. Speaking of next week, we begin our celebration of the women of the Seacoast with one of 5 conversations featuring exclusively women-owned businesses during International Women's Month. Here's a sneak peek from our first guest, Dover radio host, Kira Liu.
Can you imagine seeing Taylor Swift play at the Gaslight? To be in that, and then after I published that article, people came sliding into my DMs. I was there.
That's next week on Seacoast Stories. Until then, have a great week. Live free or die.